Ring, 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 herald priest, and welcome back to the magical Krown's Unicorn Cave.
Oh, baby. Welcome back, my dear Bulas. It is a beautiful Monday morning over here from a bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. I'm up nice and early since 6:30 a.m., getting a full night of sleep, so I'm feeling really fucking good today. And looking at the Bitcoin price action, huh? What about that? Anyways, plenty to talk about today. I want to follow up on the short, medium, and long-term analysis that we were covering yesterday on Sunday for the weekly closure, as the targets were met, and now initiating the next set of moves that we've been looking at eyeing for the past few weeks during this little consolidation range between 11,000 and 12,000. So we're going to follow up on all of that, look at a little bit of world markets as well, and now put the interest on the open interest in the Krown chain application, which can be found at app.krowntree.net. It is 100% free, so take advantage of it. And as you can see from yesterday to today, Bitcoin gaining about 200 million, actually more like 250 million almost in open interest, as Bitcoin does not only clear the high term time frame range, but also create the first higher high that we've seen on a weekly since, well, not the first higher high that we've seen on a weekly, but a breakage of a level that we have not seen since January of 2018, a almost 3-year major liquid zone that has been holding Bitcoin back from the big bad move. Anyways, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, did head up a slight amount from yesterday to today. So while Bitcoin is rallying, it is starting to soak up a little bit of alts versus Satoshis. However, alts versus US dollar are going up on the whole as well. And we definitely do see rotations going on in this market right now, as there are several very strong altcoins kind of taking the lead and taking turns, jumping around, essentially being between Link and I believe Tezos more recently. And then of course Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of thrown in there as well as like the major ones. And then of course, you got your DeFi shit coins that are like way fucking out there, Ether Delta shit from 2017. But overall, a lot of things to be aware of here, as we do see not only rotations in the crypto market, but also in the greater world market. So we will be checking that out soon enough as well. Looking at the fear and greed index, a little bit strange there, actually taken down 1 point from 79 to 78, even though Bitcoin did clear the weekly range, and everything else more or less steady here. Actually, global market cap, funnily enough, coming down a little bit as well. So perhaps we will take a look at that today. But behold, my friends, let's go check out some price action analysis charts right here. And here's a big bad thing that we've been referencing for a very long time now, the weekly resistance. The weekly area at 11,500 has officially been closed above. That's also breaking the 0.5 fib retracement right here, and also clearing above a level on the volume profile that we have not seen really shattered ever since, like I said, January 2018, and starting to enter into a little bit of a new territory here. As you can see, anywhere above this area is just fraught with peril. It's a completely different game above this region, as Bitcoin already being quite volatile in the low $11,000 region. I imagine it's going to get even more so if it does continue onwards and upwards here, with particular long-term areas in mind, as we've been speaking about, still at the mid 13,000s for the weekly, then technically 16,000 and 20,000. Of course, this is not to insinuate that this is happening anytime soon, but overall, kind of in a little bit of the wild, wild west territory here, as we haven't really spent too much time, historically speaking, within these regions. So it's more or less a game of really a game of divergences right now, just because I would not, I feel very uncomfortable calling any sort of tops on a run like this until we see some sort of divergence, at least on a daily. And as of right now, okay, kitchen's getting started early this morning. Krown's Kitchen Cave, bright and fucking early, baby. Anyways, looking at the daily right here, we will very likely be creating some divergence at some point on this next run, but there's plenty of room to fill out before we actually even get a potential divergence play. And more importantly, for right now, it is continuation, what do you want to call this? You want to call it a flag? Do you want to call it an ascending triangle? I've been charting it as an ascending triangle this past week, and it does look like it's, if we're looking at spot price action, it actually does not look broken. But here's the thing: we should be looking at CMEs. CMEs have new highs on the run, obviously without last weekend's move to both 12,000 and a sell from 12,000 that we saw in spot. This is essentially what the chart would look like, which is more or less continuation on the whole. And more importantly for CMEs right here, we do see that the weekly as well well is following through, taking out last week's high, and realistically, I don't really see too much stopping us from the mid 12s, like 12.5, 12.6 on CMEs, which probably aligns with 12.3 to 12.5 on spot price action as we've been looking at over the past few days, insinuating a target if Bitcoin does clear the next range, of which I do believe. Technically, actually, on a 4-hour, we have not really seen that. And let me kind of just chart this one out right here, or I guess I do have it a little bit above, but you know, if we are getting very surgical with this, which we should, well, technically speaking, it actually kind of has it on a 4-hour. On a daily though, it has, and on a weekly though, it has, which obviously have a lot more implications. Usually though, you want to see your lower time frames kind of lead into the higher term time frames, so it is a little bit strange in the way that we've seen these kind of overlaid. But we did also see a similar signature with how the monthly set last week, clearing above and making the second all-time closing high that we've ever seen in Bitcoin's history, and then the weekly following through just last night, actually. So looking at this right here, you know, there is a measure move to be made off of a formation like this, which is an ascending triangle, which is again only visible actually on spot price action. On CME, it's just continuation, and the measure move would actually be pointed. Jesus Christ, man, it's so high up there, can't even see, man. This one's actually pointed up rather north towards 13,000. I do not feel that comfortable trading for something like that, especially in this region right here. I take a more muted approach to that, and more so look at this as a as a shorter range, more so something like this, which would essentially be pointed towards about 12.5 region, I believe, the top side of the blue box liquid zone that we're looking at right here. Yeah, about 12.5, which also lines up with CME's next level as well. So I do think that Bitcoin's just working its way upwards and onwards towards there. We do see that daily Stochs still pointed nice and erectly to the north side, which is, you know, getting into the critical zone. But overall, that first sort of stint in there is typically a good signal. And looking at daily RSI, like I said, divergence will be an issue at some point, but as of right now, it's just continuation and plenty of room to fill out here before we actually do really get to the to the more crazy or more likely signals of that. So for right now, still looks all well and good. And more importantly, I don't think that we see anything similar on CMEs. Yeah, in fact, we did actually have a little bit of divergence coming into the end of last week, getting that move from about 12,000 all the way down to 11.5, but getting picked up right after that on the 10 simple, which is the lowest period moving average that I have on the board right now. Really does insinuate that that was a quite literal BTFD moment. And again, it's kind of looking towards the August highs of last year, actually. Funnily enough, how that works just 1 year ago, in fact, where we kind of met this level. And also, I want to follow up on the weekly as well a little bit more too, because we did also not just confirm into the bullish control zone, but we didn't just confirm it in the bullish control zone, which I believe we did last week or this week. No, actually we did last week. So fair enough. This is a moot point, although we've been covering it as well. I just want to kind of follow up on this as Bitcoin price action following through after RSI confirmed. So this is the value in using derivatives on price action, in this case, a momentum oscillator. As they should precipitate price action and let you know a little bit, foremost, I suppose. And anytime that we've seen the weekly RSI get in the bullish control zone, that has been the start of your pretty long-term, I shouldn't say long-term, but pretty aggressive upside markets. This guy right here happening in April 2019 after this consolidation sideways. And remember that during this time, Bitcoin had just broken out of the 4,000 level and just rallied up $1,500, trade sideways at the, just under 6,000, which everyone was looking to sell, remember? Or I'm sure that you remember that if you were around just a year ago or a little bit less than a year ago. And while everyone was selling, Bitcoin continues onwards and upwards as it typically does after those first major girthy green dildos. Same thing back from all the way from the 2015 end of 2015 to 2018 run right here. Anytime the weekly RSI got in the bullish control zone, that was and they don't look all that impressive, but percentage wise they are all impressive actually. This one giving you about 70% right there. This one right here giving you another 78%. That's actually rather interesting. This one right here, calling this whole move. Jesus Christ, man. 100% on that one. Another one right here. It's basically the whole way through, and it has a nice ebb and flow on these runs while the weekly RSI gets into the bullish control zone and then bases on the yellow 21 exponential moving average the whole way through, as you can see right here, which is also it's going to be more or less the 20 simple on the Bollinger Bands, which we were looking at as well. Same thing going back to 2013 and 2011 respectively. Anytime that Bitcoin got the weekly RSI to the bullish control zone right here, that's October 14th in 2013. That was this whole run, and I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to get a similar percentage to this, but that was a 950% gainer right there. And then with the run in 2013, or the earlier run in 2013, this was a 2000% run right here as well. And then this run right here, in 2012, I believe it was another 172% from top to bottom after that signal was given. So all of this has been more or less good on the whole. We also do see, more importantly, the weekly jewel getting some more positive slope here, which does suggest that this is going to be an efficacious HODL or long signal, which we called out a couple weeks ago at late July on the 20th, and this one getting confirmed 2 weeks ago, and then getting more and more divergence last week and this week. So it's just following through, acting as you would expect. Although those are, very aggressive reads, typically on lower time frames. On a weekly, because it does a higher time frame with regards to Bitcoin, does hold quite a bit of weight. And well, I've learned my lesson with fighting those signals. Always embarrassing, man. When you have your own indicator and it tells you to do something and then you disagree with it, and then the indicator is obviously always right, because my opinion is typically always wrong. But that's why I don't trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis. And going back down into the lower term timeframes now, let's see how momentum oscillators are operating right now, as 4-hour Stokes are pointing nice and northwards and as long as we are above 11,900, which is essentially that last little breakout point, it will remain upside postured. And we do see that 4-hour RSI not really giving us too much here. I think that we had a very small amount of hidden bullish divergence being confirmed early yesterday, I believe it was. Yeah, so we did get that move down to 11,500-ish region. I do remember yesterday we said that a move to 11.5 was likely, and then, well, if it puts in a higher low there, then the trend is your friend, as the saying goes. And that is the beauty of trading level by level, as I do. And it's not glorious, it's not super sophisticated, but at the end of the day, it keeps you in the trade. And realistically, there is no reason to be bearish as long as you're above 11.5, as we've been saying for about a week now. And that is, well, coming to fruition. I do think that Bitcoin has a little bit of downside here. Probably retest maybe 11.9, 11.850, something like that. But as long as Bitcoin base is above there, I'll be looking for momentum on these short-term timeframes in line with the weeklies reads that we were looking at earlier to carry Bitcoin onwards and forwards to around 12.3 to 12.5 short and medium term. Long term, I do think that Bitcoin very likely heads its way up towards mid 13,000s or upper 13,000s, and then we'll take it from there. But looking at all the lower term timeframes right now, they essentially do agree with each other, which does look like it is more or less healthy on this run. We do see 3-hour Stokes pointing up and northward as well, also playing out the same trend line that it's been getting the last few lows of this prior week. In this region right here, defending against the bearish control zone all at the same time. Good confluence there. And then more importantly, we do see that momentum will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 11,950, the same area as the 4-hour, which is going to be further verified by the 2-hour, which is much lower than that. So we're seeing all of the low term timeframes move together with each other, but they're building support on top of each other, with having those lower levels on the lower timeframes in relationship to the higher term timeframes, requiring less from price action. So that is, well, it's technically another way of confirming the trend in that sense. But you can see here on the 2-hour, for example, 11,550 is the magical number to keep momentum to the upside on this next closure, to be fair. I don't see any I don't see any obvious divergences here. I'm sure that someone's going to say, but Krown, bearish divergence right here. It's continuation right now. It's not, it's there. There's no local high confirmed. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. And if we do confirm a local high here, especially by coming back down below 11,900 on a 2-hour closure, then yeah, we could talk about another move back down to maybe 11.5 region. But overall, that is still actually following our nice guided trend line here. Not to say that it's invaluable, but it's been working for the last week. So as long as you're above there, my bias boner is still angled to the upside. And looking at the hourly, it's even more aggressive than that, actually, showing that the very short-term momentum remains the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 12,000, which would imply a closure above the topside resistance of this liquid zone for what it's worth right now. And that also would suggest that we probably do, or at least Bitcoin will give a legitimate try here, as it does have bearish divergence present if it confirms a local high here, which it is not just yet, but it will. Well, a little bit difficult here to kind of get this one. It will if we start to especially close hourlies below 11,950, and then yeah, I'd be looking for a retest of 11.8. But overall, this is only relevant to the short-term timeframes, as we spoke about yesterday, especially with the weekly. All the focus is on there, and that is, you know, further verified by the monthly, which I think just takes it a few steps further. So remember that the big thing yesterday was not just all the levels that we looked at to the upside, with specific attention to this, you know, to the 0.5 fib here on the bullish retracement on that liquid zone from 11,500. But this is a change in behavior on the macro, as Bitcoin has officially gotten a nice girthy close above the last few closing highs that have turned into major rejections within this region. So technically speaking, you know, is it all said and done right now? No, technically not, because you know, you do want to see it also clear the top side of the liquid zone as well, as there's been plenty of tries above before, you know, one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here. But overall, things are shaping up rather well. And with momentum also just following through at the same time, weekly Stokes getting a nice stint back up in the bullish control, or sorry, not just the bullish control zone, but also the critical zone. I would say that that's more or less a good thing. Hold on, let me, I think I got something playing in the background. Fuck me. Uh-oh. All right, maybe that was coming through on the, oh no, it wasn't coming through. Okay, great. So probably gonna sound a little bit weird. Anyways, this is also outlined with the same sort of RSI read. So anytime that we've gotten into the critical zone like we did here, this was the same area in 2019 where Bitcoin based off of after that first major green dildo, and then boom, continuation for another 100 or so % to the upside. And it's the same essential play that we've seen suggested by the RSI getting into the bullish control zone. It just has a little bit of a different interpretation. Anyways, what I wanted to focus on right here was, yes, my secondary chart, of which we'll take everything off and focus on the weekly Bollinger Bands, of which let's also get rid of that too. Yeah. There we go. And Bitcoin did technically close above the topside Bollinger Band yesterday. It was the topside Bollinger Band set in at 11,643, spot 17, and we closed 11,683, spot 03. And I'm curious if this is agreed upon on all major exchanges. Does GDAX have it? 641 versus 688. Yes, indeed it does. Does BitMexico have it? 646 spot 9 versus 691. Yes, indeed it does. What about Finex? Finex shows 637 spot 1 versus 675 spot 3 closing. Yes, indeed it does. So all major exchanges do agree getting that first closure above the topside Bollinger Band on the weekly chart, while at the same time, both these things need to be considered together, a positive slope is printed on, or maintained on the median band right here. Again, just a 20 simple moon average. You know, that has been, again, the same signal that we've seen back and over here on the same sort of interplay that we were looking at on weekly RSI and weekly Stokes, and also weekly levels. I mean, you know, it was a 6,000 level. Everyone was looking to fucking short that, just like the 11.5 to 12,000 area right here. Very, 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 very similar interplay. Gets a positive slope at that same time, and then massive move to the upside. Same thing throughout all of 2015 to 2018 run right here, as Bitcoin plays off the topside Bollinger Band on the bullish rumps, you know, on the bullish runs, and then grabs the reaccumulation phase on the 20 simple during the bullish dumps. And same thing going back on over here and basically to the genesis. So the picture that I'm painting right now is that Bitcoin is doing something legitimately different here, and that is verified by multiple points of reads, all sorts of different derivatives on price action, which does add confluence to it, which does add essentially confidence to those reads, and with price action falling through at the end of the day, that is the most important thing to me. And yes, I do think that Bitcoin's going to be essentially moving its way towards last year's June highs, which is, yeah, actually mid to high 13s, probably on the long term, and short term, medium term, probably gunning for 12.5 to 12.3 region, of which I'd probably be looking for maybe a short term pullback there. But don't confuse short-term pullback with a weekly. I mean, a short-term we're talking about 4 hour and below. Long-term we're talking about daily, weekly essentially, which is even like a major range right there as well. So let me come back down to our BitMexican, or are these BitMexican charts? No, they're not. Let's go back to CME charts right here, and I'm curious if there's any sort of obvious things that are going on right now. Weekly momentum looking the same as what we see on spot price action, so it's good that we have confluence between the two. And then also I've been showing this as well, mostly to the TA nerd sessions. Are Spoon Boys still here? No, we're 20 minutes in. All right, Spoon Boys are gone. Fuck them. Let's talk some TA. So we were speaking about this last week, or sorry, not last week, but over the past couple weeks, looking at this as an inverted head and shoulders with a double left shoulder, which is completely fine, and a very shallow right shoulder, which actually does imply strength. And what do you know? The breakage did officially happen a few weeks ago, actually above 10.5. That was a relevancy of that region and taking out the earlier year highs in February at that same level. So to me, this is just following through the whole way, and it does suggest that this is efficacious. And if that is true, then there is a measure move to be made off that. And while I don't necessarily feel comfortable suggesting that the measure move is going to get hit 1-to-1, I do think that anywhere within this region is a nice place for the weekly, especially at the upper 13,000s. It does look like. So it depends where you kind of take it from. If you're going to be more conservative with it, it actually lines up with that pretty much perfectly. And remember that CMEs do have about a $200 premium on spot price action, trading at 12,150 versus spot's 12,000 essentially. But that's also on a slight delay here, so probably more so akin to about $200, which would imply Bitcoin at that upper 13,000s region. On a more muted measure move here, on a more aggressive one, if things get a little bit crazier, then low 15s, I suppose, is looking ripe there. And volume signature is confirmed on this one. We also see volume increasing on the breakout to the upside 3 weeks ago. I mean, this is, I really dislike kind of playing around with those ideas, and that's why I save it for the TA nerd session, because it seems like the TA nerds like myself and perhaps you, if you're listening at this point, understand nuance, and nuance is needed, especially in the game of trading, because there's no black or white things. And when you're talking statistics, it's just a matter of time before something unlikely does happen. It's just statistics at the end of the day. But whoops, hey, stop that. But this is why we do the TA nerd session as well, because these things do matter, and over time we will see them play out. But because it is a weekly, it naturally takes time. I mean, it's been technically 2-3 weeks since we actually initiated that move, or sorry, that confirmation. I'd imagine that it'd still take another few weeks before Bitcoin actually does make a legitimate attempt towards those long-term regions. So keep your eyes on that, or at least I'd suggest keeping the eyes on that as kind of like a nice area for looking for probably a long-term pullback sideways and down, as while this run has been pretty damn impressive, and I do think that it has another leg here, obviously, as we're looking at right now. I do think that after the next leg, Bitcoin will probably trade sideways and down for a little bit of time, and spend those long consolidations just frustrating the shit out of people before making the next move, which could be reversal or could be continuation. I think that'd be very premature to call it before now. However, seeing and putting the puzzle piece together that Bitcoin essentially has, done something that it hasn't done since 2018, a major change of behavior on the macro scale, not just on the weekly but also on the monthly as well. Probably does get follow through. I don't think that this is just a part of the same sort of bear trend that we've been looking at for the past 3 years. I think this is something new. And again, for perspective, and I know that nothing's changed here, but the monthly looks like it wants to go to 13.5 to 14,000. I mean, it is a monthly, so it probably takes some time, but monthly Stokes, nice and erect, rejection the bearish control zone, very good. Monthly Jewel, giving you a hot or long signal as well. Monthly RSI, looking like it wants to gun for the bullish control zone as well, even putting an inverted head and shoulders right here too, so that would imply a stint into the bullish control zone. I mean, all these things are good, especially when they're combined together. And then more importantly than anything, if that even makes sense in English, is the trend here. And guess what? Low, high, higher low, higher high. Sometimes that TA bullshit, that hocus pocus motherfucker, sometimes it actually works out. So yeah, I'd say, as long as Bitcoin's closing monthlies above 10.8, I'm looking for a general upwards market, over the next couple months probably. I very much dislike saying things like that because I think that it can be misconstrued, but I will trust that people who are listening at this point in the video understand nuance and understand the interplay between those sorts of major statistical narratives. Anyways, okay, all right. So I think that we also closed a 3-day and 2-day yesterday night. Yeah, we did. And what do you know? Continuation. And looking at the 3-day, it does look like, yeah, 12,350 to 12,500 is kind of where I'm looking at for another short-term resistance here. 3-day Stokes going to be nice and erect here. They will be meeting this trend line, to be fair. So, you know, it could be that we are looking for a little bit of a local high being printed here on the medium-term timeframes. Relatively soon, but I don't really trust Stokes for something like that. In a trendy move, I want to look at RSI. And do we have any bearish divergence to be aware of here? No, not at all. I'm sure that someone will say, but Krown, what about May 2019? Yeah, you're probably using a 14 period, and that was literally more than about a year ago. So probably not all that relevant, or at least I wouldn't suggest so. And on the 2-day, do we have anything else to look at? 2-day looks like very obvious continuation here as well. Again, gonna be having potential to make bearish divergence here, but this is just, I mean, the 2-day chart I think is the easiest chart to read. It's you know, we have a clear flag formation here, or do you want to call it a ascending triangle? Don't care what you call it. It's continuation at the end of the day, and I believe that we even have we actually do not have new highs on this run. So 12.1 will be an area of interest. I wonder if BitMexico printed new highs on the run. 12,163 and a half versus 12,110. Okay, so yeah, no new highs on this run just yet. But with momentum also still pointed northward, I do think that it's going to give a legitimate try here, and yeah, 2-day RSI looking good as well. So all these things play together, and more importantly, with historical volatility percentile still expanding on the daily, as we said, this past week was something really big to hammer in. I would expect this expansion phase to come up with price action, as we've already seen. Open interest going up, price action going up, volume going up, and historical volatility percentile all going up. That's like the holy fucking trinity. Well, I guess there's 4 things there, but essentially suggesting that the move is legitimate. This move does matter, and this move matters. This move lives matters, whatever the fuck that means. Don't cancel me, bro. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if you cancel me. It's fair enough, man. If you hate me, if you hate my face, well, I don't blame you, actually. I don't actually blame you, but I can't change it, so sorry, I guess. But looking at this right here, still some more to go. I wouldn't really be calling it a top on this, on even like the daily until, well, when we have like an actual top formation. But 2, I want to see some redlining on the historical volatility percentile, and then we could maybe be aware of that. So overall, I mean, that's really what I'm looking at right here. Let's come up with, oh man, I did something very bad. I did not come up with points of contingency to the downside. Obviously 11.5 is still very much relevant. As long as Bitcoin's above 11.5, I really have no long-term reason to be bearish on Bitcoin. But short-term though, 11.9 is the area that I'd be looking at right here. If Bitcoin does close a 2-hour or 4-hour delta below 11.9, I'd look for a return back down, at the very least to the 21 exponential moving average, which is actually not that far away there. And then we'll kind of come back and analyze it after that. That's only relevant to the short term. It's still 11.5 that I kind of be judging the medium term. If that does break, I'd look for another move back down to this liquid zone at low 11,000. That's the one that really matters for the long term. So if Bitcoin were to break below 11,000, especially on a 12-hour or daily, even on a 4-hour probably does it as well, then I'd target moves still the same back down to 9,800-ish region. So we're talking major reversal at that point, with bounces along the way at 10,500-ish, and wherever the 200 simple on the daily comes in as well, probably about $200 lower. It looks like $300 lower, but bounces that likely do get sold into if it does happen. But again, I'm not looking for anything like that, especially as long as we're above 11.5 and even 11,000. Those are the big triggers right there. Warning flag at 11.5, trigger at 11,000, and this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinions on these markets, for better or worse. Okay, let's go check out the strength in traditional markets, if there is still some. On NASDAQ futures, is it getting reaccumulated after Friday's sell-off? Does look like it, and very similar chart to Bitcoin as well, putting in a nice accumulation phase in early to mid-July right here. We can actually move this up a bit as well. And it's the same sort of implications as Bitcoin too. And I'm like, I'm just going to get rid of this one. Hanging out at the, what is this right here? 1.414. Yeah, the 1.414 fib extension. Same sort of thing here. Can it come back down and retest about 11,000? Yeah, I don't have any problem with that though. It's below 11,000, below this blue box, where I do start to look at this as a greater return to the mean of the prior range at about the 618 fib. Retracement at 10,750. Same sort of implications here, though. I don't look for any sort of macro or even long-term reversal as long as Bitcoin, as long as Nasdaq is closing dailies above the bottom side of liquid zone for the past range, which is 10.5, about 10.5. If that were to happen, then yes, we can talk about moves back down to $10,000 base. But right here, right now, this is looking like continuation. Weekly implies that we're going to see new highs, new all-time highs being printed this week, just like we said last week, which that's happening, and that I don't really have any reason to believe that this is not going to continue like this week. Weekly RSI, I'm sure people are saying, but there's bearish divergence. Well, there's not bearish divergence till we confirm a local high here, and the only way that we can confirm a local high is with a closure below 10.9. So those ranges do line up rather well, but for right now, just be looking for another up. These next couple weeks. Remember that the fib extension to the 2 read right here is 11,400, and that is also in line with the measure move out of the flag formation that we saw in early July. So that is kind of the next area that I'd be looking towards, and I would be looking for a local high being printed there, probably on the medium and higher term timeframes, play out some downside and consolidate, and then we'll come back to it after that. This run is getting pretty frothy though, so I do think that that could be a major high, but it also implies that this run continues for another few $100 before that price point is met. Looking at E-mini futures for SPY, same sort of thing here. I'm looking for a retest of the prior all-time high at 3,400, and I'm looking for new all-time highs, as we've been saying for a while now. The monthly is still in an uptrend with July's closure on new all-time highs. And I essentially think that we're going to see continuation here. Again, rotations in effect. Techs go first, then the broad market, and it looks like some interplay between like retail and real estate. Actually, a lot of that, but I don't really want to go into that right now. Want to wait until we get the McClellan oscillator back on this bitch. What else do we want to check out? Maybe Japan. What's Japan doing today in the early morning hours? Not following the rest of the world markets, actually, which is not good. So we do have not only rotations in U.S. equities, but we also have rotations in world indices. Like all the major Borises are kind of taking turns as well, but we see major bifurcation between like Japan and the U.S. and then also some like England's or Great Britain's major Boris. Which is looking absolutely atrocious. So, obviously they have geopolitical things going on over there, and this is one of those times where geopolitical interplays do happen, and I really dislike that as my main source of edge is technical analysis, so that kind of does take away from it. Everything is related to each other at the end of the day, but still, it would suggest that long term we want to see the market in concert, and we don't necessarily see that. I mean, this one's obviously like very far away from making new all-time highs. Does it put in a higher low here? Or, maybe at 5,700, probably, yeah. But man, we do see bifurcation. That is for sure. So let's go check out gold as well. What's gold doing? Gold is looking like it's starting to get a little bit tired as well. Do we have any sort of bearish divergence to be aware of? Not on the daily just yet. It will very likely confirm though, or at least have a chance to confirm on this next run. Looking at daily Stokes coming down a little bit. Looking at daily RSI, it's it probably does bounce here to be fair. So I'd probably be looking for another high on this run and then a turn down a little bit. Turning down for what, sir? Well. I don't really have anything on the weekly. This is very difficult trading here. Well, it's not difficult trading. It's all you should be doing is hodling. Sorry, I should not say that. But it would be implied that hodling is the way to go here. The only way that I can really judge highs on something like this, that's at new all-time highs, is one divergence plays on higher time frames. That does not mean a fucking hourly, for God's sake, or a 4 hour for the love of fucking God. And then also fib extensions, which the 1.414 is showing 2140. Could that be like the melting up parabolic blow off top there? Probably, yeah. But for right now, the weekly range showing all. And while I do think it's very possible to get another retest of 2,000, I don't think that's very problematic. I would look for things to get picked up there as well. I would not call a top on this run until we actually have at the very least bearish divergence present on the daily, which we do not just yet. It's building up, yes, but it's not present there just yet. Let's go check out Mr. Buterol as well, and let me just check out how long this video has been. 33 minutes. Okay, so that's we'll probably end on that and then look at some probabilities. Mr. Buterol not following through with Bitcoin just yet. Actually, let me go to my other chart here. There we go. Nope, wrong one. Euro dollar probably topped out for a little bit, although it probably does give another swipe of the highs at 119. Looking at Mr. Buterol, didn't get as beautiful as a closure as Bitcoin, but still decent enough. Nonetheless, I do happen to think that it's going to be gunning for this liquid zone in the upper 400s. It looks like on the weekly, but where's the trigger point for that next area? Yeah, I think it's quite obviously right here. A daily closure above low 400s. And then I'd target a move. Let's see, we got I'd target a move towards 420 after that. Probably play out a short-term move to the downside, and actually directly in like with the last prior wick high. And then any sort of a daily closure above 420, I'd look for extension overall to the upper four, the like 460 to 480, I think it is. Yeah, 460 to 480, and let's put in a blue box there too so we can watch that one if and when things do get there. I happen to think, though, that if Bitcoin is going to continue here, which it looks like it does, then we probably see Mr. Buterol follow through as well. What does that mean for something like Link, though? Did we get that one right? That $14 tick, I believe that we did. Yeah, we said 14, 15. I said another swipe of the highs, and then I'd want to come back to it after that. Again, I don't really have great ways of I'm only looking for divergence here to call a top or fib extensions. We hit the 3.618. The next one on the board is 4.236 at $16.31 about. Do we have any divergences forming on a daily? I mean, no, not really, actually. That's the funny thing about this. This is continuation right now as far as the daily is concerned. I mean, it's going to make divergence at some point just because got quite high up there, but that implies that we're going to come down, play it a little bit of sideways, consolidate, and then give them another try, making another high, and then potential divergence after that. But for right now, still, I would actually still be looking for continuation here as long as it's closing dailies above 1060 overall. On the very short-term time frames, we can maybe judge that a little more prematurely. And right here on the 4-hour, there is some signs of an imminent pullback. Actually, 4-hour Joule is lining up for a pretty damn good sell signal, and 4-hour RSI is creating, well, it's not really creating divergence here just yet. It actually already had some right here on this high and this high. That's already played out. I'll just be using the range at $12.5 to kind of judge this one. As long as it's above here, 12.65, I'd be looking for this to give another try to the upside. I know it sounds fucking crazy right now, man. I really do. But these sorts of runs can get crazy, and I've learned in the past that it's really not a good habit to get into, to fade moves that have still not just had even like a trend reversal on a shorter term time frame like the fucking 4-hour, let alone the goddamn daily here. So things are definitely suggesting that we are slowing down. Historical volatility percentile is very, very red, but it does probably imply that it makes another try to the upside, marking a new high, and then we'll see from there. But for right now, I guess I'd be cautiously looking for some more, even though it sounds a little bit crazy. And then I'd switch around my opinion on that below $12.5 essentially. Even on a 4-hour closure, probably does it. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I don't really. Oh, we can look at Tezos too. I get like requests for this bullshit. I really. I know that people just like want to kind of hear what they want to hear, but for whatever reason, like I know that this market is fucking frothy because I'm getting all these fucking requests once again for absolute garbage shit coins. I'm not saying that Tezos is a shit coin, but for whatever reason, something like this is gonna rally too. I don't know what the fuck this thing does, but does it have some more on it? Yeah, probably a retest of $4 and beyond. It looks good here, man. This is an uptrend. Did close on new highs as well. I'd be looking for new all-time highs. Technically, this is one massive ascending triangle here now, isn't it? So we could make somewhat something resembling a measure move, although I don't know how much I trust it. on something like this, it would probably imply a target towards, just doing some bad mental math, like $5 or so, a little bit over $5. Again, as long as it maintains daily closures above 369, I don't trust this last closure that much. So I'll actually make a nice liquid zone here and judge it off that, and say something like this. As long as it's above 355, I actually do think that $5 does get hit overall in this run. But if we do see any sort of a closure below 350, then yes, I'd be looking for it to fill back out the range, more so down towards the $3 region overall. So that's kind of how I'd be judging that one right there. Anyways, back onto Bitcoin here. Let's look at probabilities, and let's look at probabilities of 12,500 to the upside versus 11.5 to the downside. And where's my probabilities? Nope, not there. Yes, over here. Okay, there we go. Let's do 12.5 to the upside and 11.5 to the downside. So 11.5 to the downside is that warning flag area. Even a 4-hour close below like 11.9 is kind of bad enough in the way that I look at it anyways. But only relevant for the short term. 11.5 is where things actually do start to turn around once again, and then 11,000 is like the obvious area, of course. Looking at the daily, I do want to point out that Bolly and Pig's moms are turning back up, so that's overall good. Although, yeah, it did just have a bullish reset during that last consolidation phase, so perhaps this one is getting it right on the daily. And showing that above target probability 5.5% versus below target probability 36.37. Why do I keep on seeing 8? 12 hours showing 1.75 versus 31.25 essentially to the downside. Again, doesn't really look like it actually wants to gun for that higher level today. Perhaps we do actually look at this as, perhaps we could look at this as an actual reversal happening here. I don't think that that's what's happening. Granted, the weekly and monthly levels. However, the blue boxes of peace and prosperity should be able to get this one. Again, warning signal below 11.9 for the short term. Probably transacting another move back down to 11.5, 11.6. Well, do I feel comfortable saying that? Yeah, maybe 11. At least the 21, wherever that ends up being, which is actually 11.7 right now. Other than that, this is kind of no man's land right here. I don't like trading in this region right here. Below 11.5, I start to close long positions. Below 11,000, I probably started to open short positions. But for right now, looking good. And CME is following through as well. Although again, finding a few sells above 12,000. Anyways, I think my main message for today is more or less good on the whole. Short term, do we see a pullback down to these regions? Yeah, maybe yes. I don't have a strong opinion on that. My strong opinion is on the weekly and daily levels, both to the upside and the downside. Again, 12,500 essentially to the upside, 11,500 to the downside for the medium term, and then 11,000 for the long term to the downside. In general, the higher term timeframes mostly in unison here, looking more or less good. So I think that's a good place for me to leave this video off. I would like to wish you all once again, take care, and until next time.